Many of us have experienced the paranormal. Maybe you hear a voice in an empty house, or see something out of the corner of your eye, or maybe you played with something you shouldn't have.
We live in the sunlit world of what we believe to be reality. But in the corner of your eye, there lies a darkness that's always there, and it lies between the pit of man's fears. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, a world that is just as real, but not as brightly lit. A dark world.
The first time I heard about Ouija boards was at my neighbor's house when I was in middle school. They bought one and they were really excited to, as they say, talk to dead people, and I was like, what, really? Like, is that even possible?
I honestly can't remember when the first time I heard about a Ouija board was, but I kind of feel like it's just one of those things that I learned about growing up, but I always thought it was kind of weird how they sold them in kids stores with other board games for kids.
The first time I actually heard about it, like, in my actual life, other than random movies and stuff, would probably be my friend, and she was the one I also used a Ouija board with for the first time ever.
It was when I was 12 and my sister had some of her friends over, and they were playing with one, and I asked what it was, and she said it was a Ouija board, and I had no idea what it was at that point.
The Ouija board is a powerful staple in the paranormal world and is widely used in pop culture, regardless of all the warnings and misfortune of the people who have used them.
What the fuck was that, bro? I'm fucking over this shit.
To find out why a small board game has made such a huge impact on our culture, we need to take a step back in time. Spirit boards, or talking boards, were originally invented by the members of the Kwanzan school of Taoism around 1100 AD for the purpose of communicating with spirits. By the 1800s, spirit boards had found their way to numerous areas around Youngstown, Ohio, where they were used by witches and occultists to communicate with departed souls. The first person to market these spirit boards was a man from Maryland named Charles Wesley Kennard, who, after reading an 1886 article in the New York Daily Tribune about spirit boards, decided to team up with Ernest Christian Reach, the local coffin maker, to begin mass-producing the boards. Kennard repeatedly attempted to patent the board, but was repeatedly struck down by the U.S. Patent Office, until a local lawyer named Elijah Jefferson Bond took interest in Kennard's idea and decided to drag his sister-in-law, Helen Augusta Peters Noseworthy, a spiritual medium, down to the patent office to help them patent the product. Helen chose to show off the power of the board by asking it what the board should be called, to which the board replied, Ouija. When asked what Ouija meant, the board then replied, good luck. In 1893, Kennard was forced out of the company by his financial backers, and William Fuld took over the company and became the face of Ouija.
I have used a Ouija board, and I've had very mixed experiences. My sister and I used to do it a lot. Shortly after experiencing the Ouija board for the first time, I bought my own within days. Basically, this girl was living in my sister's closet, allegedly, this spirit. And we were talking to her through the Ouija board for like months. And she would give us details about her life and how she passed. And it was enough for me to be able to go online and Google, people that have passed within the state of wherever she was from. And, a name came up and a whole, obituary and everything. And to this day, it bothers me.
My first time using a Ouija board was definitely the most intense. We didn't expect it to work, we just kind of did it for fun. We took all the safety precautions because we thought might as well, just in case, but we didn't actually expect it to work. We just thought it was going to be a fun thrill. At the beginning, there weren't any movements, so we did give it time, and over time it started to move really slowly, but it kind of built up. We were really scared and shocked when it actually started working. It kind of felt like a magnetic pull, but like really strong. And we each took turns removing our hands just to prove that it wasn't us doing it ourselves.
And the couple of times that I've used them, it's just been kind of lame, to be completely honest.
So my experience at Ouija boards was actually pretty intense. Originally I actually wasn't going to touch it, but then I was with a group of 3 people, and the one girl was my best friend, but the other 2 people I didn't know, and she didn't even know this information, but I actually got called out, and it said some really personal information, which I found to be strange that nobody knew, so that's what enticed me to actually play with one.
The sales of the game would skyrocket due to the game being marketed as mysteriously as possible. The Ouija board was mostly sold to those who sought peace and communication after losing loved ones at war. However, they also marketed it as a date night game. At a time when men and women weren't supposed to be alone, a game that insisted that it needed 2 open-minded players of opposite genders and forced them to sit with knees and fingers touching also increased its popularity. The game became so popular they had to build 2 more factories just to keep up with demand. William Fole died in 1927 when he was on the roof of a new factory supervising the rise of a flagpole when the metal support that he was standing on failed and he fell from the roof. He grabbed on for the windowsill of an open window, but the window mysteriously slammed shut, and he fell to the pavement, breaking several ribs. His injuries were severe enough that an ambulance took him to the hospital, but on the way, the ambulance lurched over a bump in the road, which caused one of the broken ribs to pierce Fold's heart, killing him instantly. The board's popularity continued to grow, becoming a household item and even outselling Monopoly. However, that all changed when the movie The Exorcist came out in 1973. Almost overnight, it went from a party game to a connection to evil.
We were using the board in my room, and we had our fingers on the planchette, and I looked to my left, and there's this light starting to appear, like this purplish color in the corner of the room, and I don't know if I was like looking into a light source or something, but in my consciousness, in that state of mind, I saw a light starting to appear next to me. And I didn't say a word to her, I just got up and I ran. And she was freaked out, I was freaked out, we didn't know how to explain it, it was just something that we did, and yeah, I have no explanation for it.
At one point during the hour that we were playing, the planchette started moving really fast between the A and the M, and we couldn't figure out if that was initials for a name that started with an A and an M, but eventually it started going super fast between the A and the M, so then we were like, is it M-A-M-A or is it A-M? Like, we were super confused, we had no idea what was going on.
I'm a pretty logical person, and I really couldn't explain a lot of the situations I have. I don't think you exactly need a Ouija board to have a paranormal experience, but I do think it can definitely be a portal to opening yourself up to a paranormal experience.
A Ouija has been portrayed in movies as a great evil that mustn't be tampered with. However, many skeptics claim that it isn't supernatural at all, and it's actually the ideomotor effect causing the planchette to move, a psychological phenomenon where someone makes motions unconsciously. The effects of automatic writing, dowsing, and Ouija boards have been attributed to the phenomenon by skeptics and non-believers.
I think that the mind is something that, you know, is so complex that we're never going to fully have answers to everything. And that's what makes, you know, this concept of, you know, Ouija boards and spirits and supernatural beings and things like that. If our consciousness is limited based on our environment and how we are, you know, perceiving, you know, if we're able to open that up and see more, I'm very curious of that. Because, you know, we've all seen dogs and we've all seen cats like bark at things that aren't there. So, you know, it makes me wonder, you know, there's so many thoughts, and I feel like there's so many like ghost shows on television that I feel like make a mockery of the whole idea and it's just meant for entertainment. But once you're scared from a real experience that you can't explain, it's really hard to let go of it.
I do believe that the ideomotor effect is a very real thing, and I believe that it can be used to find out things about your subconscious that you didn't realize. But in my case and my experience with the Ouija board, I don't believe that this was what was happening. I do believe that we had contacted something or someone.
People can just, think that the Ouija board is going to do something, and they all will subconsciously think that, and then their brains will just make it move without them ever thinking about it. And it'll happen, then they'll think that it's, some spirit that's moving it.
You could totally, subconsciously not even mean to put things out there that you're kind of maybe pushing in the back of your mind or anything, and it's coming out, which I totally think can happen. But in my case of a lot of the situation I experienced, it just wasn't the case. It was really personal things, and some things weren't even part of my thought process or things that I know about what were being said, and same with my friend. So I can't speak on our experience, both mine and my friends that we've had, that was the case with that phenomenon. I'm sure it's happened to people, and I'm sure it can happen, but I believe mine to be very real, and it's what happened.
Whether you choose to believe that the board is a means of communicating with the dead, or that the planchette is moved by involuntary movements, one thing is certain. The Ouija board will continue to be produced, and will continue to fascinate and terrify people for many years to come. And remember, keep your mind open. Anything is possible in this dark world.